We will start off with our lovely illustration. Danny, do you want to explain this?
Yeah, so what you're looking at is the whole profile series is based on this analogy of the house. The first floor is always the foundation, second floor is always sort of the expanse of the whole first floor above the foundation. And then you sort of swirl around the house. You see we're going up the stairs, the third line, the fourth line is the networker looking out into everything. There's the fifth line. And the fifth line has got those blinds. You can see her face, but she's always ready to like withdraw and close the blinds and peer out. So this whole analogy of this fifth line personality is they're behind looking out onto things and people project upon them. They're looking up what's behind that window, what keeps lurking out, what is that person? And so this whole fifth line is about universalizing. And the two itself is obviously on the first floor, and this is about the second line doesn't even know that all the windows are open and it's walking around with its own little trip, waiting for someone to pierce its shell, and it's resistant to that piercing. So if you want that second line, you have to sort of get into them first, and then they'll come out. And you need to do that sort of with both the 2-5 profiles. Very much, you need to do it with both. They're the ultimate of sort of hiding away and then coming out to play. It's
Mm,
they hide away before they come out to play, and that's just a very common thing for them. They need to know that.
right? That needs to be on a t-shirt for all two fives.
Hmm.
So they are world changers, right? So they challenge and alter the status quo. And like Danny mentioned, they have a dualistic nature, right? Their five makes them want to help people, but their two is like, you know what? I would rather just be alone. They two and the five together, when you have them in the lines, it's a harmonic profile, right? So
Yep.
they appear very put together. However, the line two and the line five are both lines of projection. So they're attracting projection like double ended.
Yeah, very, very much so. Need for space, this essential, intimate relationships for personal growth. And so the second line has this incredible way that it gets into relationships and it's slowly and then all at once. And if they don't do it that way and they don't allow their little bubble to be pierced, things tend to go wrong. It's supposed to be hard to get to a 2-5. This is a core trait. They make it that way and they don't even know they're doing it. And sometimes they do, and sometimes it's a mixture. And the fact of the matter, it's got to be hard to get to a 2-5. Otherwise, the person getting to them doesn't know if they've gotten to the right person, and the 2-5 doesn't know if the right person is getting to them. It's just a
Hmm.
thing. It's a way to filter out what's right for you.
Hmm. So they are also very effective when they're connected in the way Danny mentioned, right? They are generous by nature. They actually do want to help. But before you
Hmm.
can get to that point, like Danny mentioned, you have to kind of get through that shell before you can get there. And it's crucial for them to have space, even in their closest relationships with their spouses, with their family, with their best friends. Like they inherently need space, and that's how they recharge.
To hermit away. There's aloneness has to be one of the aspects where they just sort of are a hermit, and the other one is then they can be out and do their attractive thing. Yep.
Mhm. So the way they learn and their authority. So like the the common thing with all line twos, they have no idea that they are able to do stuff really well, mind you. So their natural abilities, other people spot it immediately, but they themselves are completely unaware. And when they are clear about what they want to do, right, they are quite effective at tooting their own horn. It's like, you know what, I do this well. But the first part has to come from that outside recognition of like, yeah, you do that stuff well. But once that happens, they're like, "Yeah, you're actually right." And we touched upon the projection feel, right? They have
Hmm.
expectations coming from both their line two and their line five. Do you want to
Yeah.
elaborate?
Yeah, though that expects people expect stuff, and that's literally the field that is most difficult for the 2-5 because on one end they're saying, leave me alone. Don't try to influence me. On the other end, they're saying, but I have things to say. I have things to say. Let's talk about this. Um, and so it's very confusing, and people project upon that to say, you do have things to say all the right things and save me. And you do have things to say. You're a little natural. I bet you're wicked good at this. And so what they get is, I bet you're wicked good at saving me. I bet you're wicked good at fixing the stuff. I bet you're wicked good at the thing. And you're so nice and you're so easy to get along with ish mostly because you're a little hermit and you're just basically you're a hermit at first. Your very first instinct is just to be democratic about all that. If everyone goes along with this, I go along with it too, type thing. Because they're looking for harmony so that they can stay in a flow that's not bothering them. And so both are being called upon. We know how people call upon that fifth line. They want things from it, and they sully its reputation if they don't give it.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. And this goes right into what Danny's saying, right? So when it's a line 5, right, they have to be providing practical solutions, right? It needs to be something that anyone with any skill level is able to execute, right? And the minute that the solution isn't actually practical, your reputation goes down the tube.
Start to go down, and you start to recognize it, and you start to feel that projection more, and it starts to turn from. It always starts positive. Every 2-5, every fifth line, everywhere has this amazing ability to recognize people are projecting upon me. Why don't I take advantage of those projections? And they should. They absolutely should, to help weed out the ones that aren't right for them. But when they don't know, it's nervous making. What do they want from me? And I don't want them to
Mm.
want stuff from me. So it's both.
So
But
it's
you're
like
still
a
little,
little tightrope.
yes, it can. Well, it can be in tighter situations. You're finding your right tribe is wicked, wicked important. Finding the right partner, if you're partnered up, is wicked important.
Hmm. So challenges, right, and ways to feel empowered, right? So when a 2-5 is feeling like they're not being respected, they are going to rebel, right? They're going to be like, well, no, right? They're going to push back. They're not going to just sit there and take it. Um, but what's interesting is they are very good at handling these projections and expectations. Maybe Danny can
Yeah,
explain
they
why that's
grow.
the case.
Yep, because it's a life process. You grow good at it. And we need everyone to be in their strategy and authority, watching their experiments so they can get good at being themselves and stop being what they're not, so that they can get good at this. Because right now, sometimes they're good at it and sometimes they're not, is the thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just nervous making, mental anxiety, emotional nervousness. Let's say they have an open throat, they can't say anything. Let's say they're open sacral and they can't tell if they should jump into the energy or not. Let's say they're whatever. Open ego, they don't feel worthy. Suddenly they don't want to say anything about it necessarily. It's just they need to get comfortable in their own skin. That's so important for a 2-5. It's like, hey, you've got a lot of stuff coming in on you. Don't do anything. In fact, walk away, because it always makes people want you more. Walk away. And if they don't want you a little
Right.
more, they might not be the right tribe for you.
So this goes right into the leadership role thing. So when I
Mhm.
was doing my catching up and educating myself on this profile before our show, Ra is the analogy of like they're kind of like the general, right? They're expected to come save the day, but they're not expected like to hang out. Like they
Right.
did the thing and then they retreat. So they
That's
come
the
save the
practical
thing
nature.
and then they leave.
That's
They're
the
not supposed to
practical
stay.
nature.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the first order of business and the first talent and skill you need to get practical at. When to bounce, when to
Yes.
get out of dodge. Yep. And bouncing,
Right.
by the way, doesn't mean you totally disconnect. It's just, when do you just sort of excuse yourself? And plus, you want to excuse yourself anyways. Half of you is a hermit.
Right,
You-
exactly. It's
So you
actually
already want
crucial
that.
for you not to
Yeah.
be there. But yeah, even there's a funny explanation when I was first getting into human design. Uh one of the people I was studying with, she said there's like I'm a line 5. I actually have to, and she was a 5-1 by the way. She's like I have to maintain distance from my clients and my students because I am most effective when I am not always readily available. And I thought that was like really interesting. Like, huh, okay. You're
That's
not
a fair
supposed to
statement.
always you're not supposed to be besties. She's like, that's a line 4 thing.
Well, they're supposed to have some besties, like super duper, but it's just most of the people are acquaintances that you've got to get in and out of, and no promises. You wait till that projection comes in upon you and you see if that feels like the right opportunity, the right thing, the right universalization for you. And just keep in mind, you're here to universalize.
Right.
Make bigger that which is your uniqueness out into the world, to have it be made bigger and universalize that across the peoples that are around.
And since again you are still a line two, right? You
Yep.
have calls, right? And
Well,
the correct calls will have personal and social transformation, right? So
totally.
you'll be changing yourself and everything outside of you. And you are here to give solutions, like we mentioned, that are going to help your reputation, and the way your reputation is kept intact is if it's something that anyone can do. It can't be like some, high level theoretical thing that can't be tangible and applicable. It has
Right.
to be applicable and
Practical.
usable.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just
Practical and
using different
simplified to the
words.
masses. Yep.
I'm going to make it
Well,
land.
oh, no, no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Right. And then conclusion, Danny, if you want to handle this one.
The desire for harmony. Harmony is this creative way of yours. Your creativity as a second line is through harmony and craving space for balance in life. Strategic hermiting. It means it's just the second you feel like you should withdraw and see if you needed to withdraw. Would see whatever you needed to see from a withdrawn space. You know what I mean? It's a safe place to go. I do it all the time. And it's the successful sidestepping of other people's requirements through isolation. And it's always we're always successful at it. Just get used to that. Education is so needed for the second line. It needs to be educated because it just doesn't know. It just doesn't know, and it could accidentally go through a whole life missing out on a whole ton of stuff it needs to know, and still be naturally good at certain stuff. But um, this respecting of boundaries, it's essential for personal and professional success. And fifth lines get practical at that. It becomes super practical because the creative output for the fifth line is the attracting of society. It's seductive. There's a seduction inside of all fifth lines to either be seduced or to seduce. That's a powerful thing. And it's meant to be used for its highest and best, usually the empowerment of others and yourself along with it. Um, and then the following the strategy and authority, and this ensures this universalization of the talents to fulfill this purpose that becomes so important to you. The purpose is first born out of this call you receive for the second line. Let it be profound or let it rest when it really is going to move you, and watch how that energy moves into you and lights you up. That happens, and that's a genetic trait, and you can't do anything about it. So live it out. I did.
Mhm.
It's great. Great. I love it, man. I get called into stuff and I can't stop. And now I'm me. Yep.
Perfect. That's this is the show that's helping people be themselves, right?
What we're after.
That's the point.